Last Saturday we had WWE Bad Blood, and we saw a very good opener and a very, very interesting final picture of the screen. But was it a good show? Was it a bad show? Let's talk about it. I'm Leo, this is the Wrestling Retrospective, and this is my review of Bad Blood 2024. So first up on the card, we had CM Punk defeating Drew McIntyre inside Hell in a Cell. This was a great match. I thought this was match of the night. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, one of the most brutal cells we've seen in a very long time. And yeah, I think we've got to go back to maybe even the early 2000s before we get a match, or at least a Hell in a Cell match that comes close to like how violent and how bloody this match was. Drew McIntyre regained my respect in this match. Like, the bump he took where his back went first into the steel steps was awful. It really made me cringe. And of course the toolbox shot, which legit split him open, and he had to get like 16 stitches, or no, it was 16 staples to close that cut. Just absolutely brutal stuff. But yeah, I think like it was a really good way to end the feud. It made sense from the beginning that they would end up putting this as soon as they announced Bad Blood. It made perfect sense that this would be inside Hell in a Cell. The only issue I thought with the match was that they didn't go on last. We know that who is to blame to that. It's the last person we saw on the card. But yeah, I think it was, as I said, very, very good, very well done. I worry for what happens for Drew McIntyre after this. If it was up to me, I'd probably have him disappear for a bit, having gone hiatus, having recover from this feud, not only physically with the legit cut, but also emotionally, and have him come back kind of, I don't know, with a renewed sense of wanting to go for the World Championship, but also keeping him a heel. Maybe bring him back for the Royal Rumble. I don't think they're going to do that just because he's such a big presence on Raw at the minute as far as like heels go and all that kind of stuff. As for Punk, I think they're going to have him go for the world title at Survivor Series. I think it makes the most sense. He called out Gunther not so long ago, and it seems to be that the plans are going that way anyway. Would I expect Punk to beat Gunther at WrestleMania, Survivor Series? Maybe. I think it'd be a very good match. I feel like there's a possibility of both coming away with the win. Of course, the only issue with that is what happened earlier on in the Bad Blood pay-per-view kind of coming up at Survivor Series instead, because Gunther may be busy at Crown Jewel. But yeah, so very good way to start the night. 100% match of the night. Very much enjoyed it. And yeah, like, definitely go check it out if you haven't already, because it is fantastic in my opinion. Following that, we had Nia Jax successfully defend the WWE Women's Championship against Bayley in a match that was unexpectedly very good. I wasn't that interested in the feud going in, didn't really think much of it, and I didn't want the rematch from SummerSlam, but there's kind of no one else on SmackDown to feud with Nia Jax. But yeah, this was fantastic. I very much enjoyed it from start to finish. I thought it was Nia's best match by far. Bayley made her look very good as well. The Nia Jax Hurricane Rana I thought was a really good spot, but I felt like Bayley may have oversold it a little bit just for like what it was. I thought this was better than their match at SummerSlam. I know a lot of people will probably disagree with me on that one, but I genuinely enjoyed this way more. And yeah, Stratton's involvement, we kind of saw it was going to happen. It kind of happens every time Nia, I feel like it will happen every time Nia kind of defends. You know, she will pop up. I think, you know, everyone was expected to cash in, and it wouldn't have shocked me if she did cash in here. But to be fair, I'm glad she didn't cash in, because it would have almost, I wouldn't say ruined a bad match. Sorry, no. It would have ruined a good match. It just kind of would have been, everyone would have concentrated on that rather than concentrating on how good the match was. I know a lot of people, again, I've said that match isn't really that good, but I couldn't disagree more. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, I liked the spot where Nia Jax kind of did her in a cane when she sat up, as it looked like Tiffany Stratton was going to cash in Money in the Bank. And yeah, just everything around the finish, the Samoan drop, the fact that Bayley did the Samoan drop as well was pretty cool. She harkened her in a John Cena to get Jax up. But yeah, just a very enjoyable match for the second match on the card. Obviously, very difficult spot to go on after Punk and McIntyre absolutely tore the house down. But I think they did really well here. And yeah, I mean, like, hopefully it's a step in the right direction for Jax as far as being a champion goes, though I'm very unsure who she feuds with next for the championship. Well, we know that she's probably going to feud with Liv Morgan next as far as Crown Jewel goes, but when it comes to Survivor Series, I'm not sure who she's going to feud with, whether she just has a feud on SmackDown or something like that. But yeah, as I said, very unexpectedly good match. After that, we had Damian Priest defeat Finn Balor in a solid match. I've really not got much to say about this one. It felt very standard between these two. Nothing really massive happened or anything to write home about. They just put on a decent match. It wouldn't have looked as far out as far as being the main event of Raw. I don't know whether they might continue this on and maybe add a stipulation which would make this feel, or at least have a bit more of a feel to it. I felt like, Priest didn't exactly get his revenge on Balor, even though he got the win here. The Judgment Day's interference failed again, which doesn't surprise me really. It kind of fails more than it does give the advantage nowadays. But yeah, so for me, I'm really hoping they have another match where they can kind of have a proper feud ender, because this was kind of just a bang average match for these two, and it was and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it was a fine match, and I'm not really complaining about it. It just wasn't. The intensity wasn't there. It kind of just blended in a bit, and there's nothing wrong. As I said, there's nothing wrong with that. It was a decent match, but yeah, I expected a bit more out of this one. After this, we had the Triple H announcement of the Crown Jewel Championship, and we kind of had an interaction between Gunther and Goldberg with some Sami Zayn put in there as well. I'm going to talk about Gunther, Zayn, and Goldberg, and then talk about the titles. I feel like that's the bigger talking point of this this part of the video. But yeah, the Gunther Sami Zayn thing, very simple, just to get them to Raw tonight, and then Gunther versus Goldberg seems to be happening, and it wouldn't shock me if it did happen. I just worry very much whether Gunther will be a champion going into that match, and whether or not Goldberg beats him for that championship coming out of that match, because we all have very sad memories of the late 2010s and the early 2020s where Goldberg would come in and just take championships from people. The Fiend, I don't think it was Kevin Owens, of course, and yeah, I just worry that's going to happen to Gunther, and he doesn't deserve it at all. But also, the match itself is you're asking Gunther to essentially dumb down his wrestling to be able to keep the pace of Goldberg, which I really don't like. Gunther is a properly good wrestler, and people like Goldberg won't be able to beat him in a match at all, in a legit wrestling match. So it just feels like this is a step down for Gunther, almost, even though Goldberg is a Hall of Famer and stuff, and it's a match I 100% do not want to see at all, though it feels like we're going to go that way anyway. We're moving on to the Crown Jewel Championship. Now, this has caused a lot of debate online, I'm aware, but for me, it's a case of, do I like the idea? Kind of. It's we can't do it at Survivor Series because of War Games, so we got to find somewhere else to do this kind of champion versus champion thing, which I've enjoyed before. When Survivor Series was Raw versus SmackDown, I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people didn't. I did. I really liked it. The whole Under Siege thing, all those years ago, I really liked it, and it's something I very much enjoyed about Survivor Series. Some of my favourite pay-per-views as far as Survivor Series go are the Raw versus SmackDown ones. But I think having a championship on the line just 1 year, I get where it's coming from. If Saudi Arabia have paid a certain amount to have a championship that's just for them, similar to how Twitter have the Speed Championship, just nowhere near on that kind of level. But I don't know, I feel like the potential matches are very good. But then the issue is they've got to then book where they want to be in November for this pay-per-view to happen, for this Crown Jewel Championship match to go down, to then who's going to be champion during the year. Because yes, they've fallen very well as far as Rhodes and Gunther goes, but I'm not sure how interested people are going to be in Jax versus Liv. So it's kind of seeing where these stories go between now and then, whether there will be some championship changes, because we've seen it before where the likes of Jinder Mahal dropped his title not far away from Survivor Series 2017, so then the match was Brock Lesnar and AJ Styles. We saw Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins lose their tag team championships to the Bar. I think that was before 2018, or it might have been 2017 as well, for the Usos versus the Bar match. And we saw it the following year in 2018 or 2018, where we got Bryan Danielson versus Brock Lesnar because they didn't want to do Styles again. So it's kind of like we've seen championships change hands in November or close to November due to not wanting to do certain matches at Survivor Series or champion versus champion matches. So, and as far as the championship goes, it's fine. I think it looks fine. I feel like people all think it looks better once it's on a person. I feel like it's just one of those things. We did it with the Universal Championship where we thought it all looked like crap, and then we saw it on likes of Kevin Owens and Finn Balor, and I don't know, it kind of grew on me anyway. So, you know, it's worth just taking that in mind. I feel like for me, it's a case of just let Triple H cook on this one and see where it goes. Let's trust the process and kind of just see where it goes in the future. And if it doesn't work, you know, they'll probably edit it in some kind of way where it will work or is a bit better off. So either way, I'm looking forward to the champion versus champion matches and just to see where all this goes as far as the future goes. Following that, we had Rhea Ripley defeat Liv Morgan via disqualification. Therefore, Morgan retained the Women's World Championship. And I'm telling you, there was something in the water as far as Atlanta, Georgia goes, because the women went out there and killed it again. I thought this match was very good. The wrestling was very smooth, especially transitional wrestling. There was a spot where Rhea and Liv were on the outside. Liv kind of went for Rhea, and Rhea kind of transitioned it into an electric chair position, and it was so smooth. It was like liquid. It was fantastic. And then obviously she just dropped her on the apron. I'm glad that the chain of the shark cage on the outside could hold Dom's weight in the moment, because you can plan all these things all you want, but you know, inanimate objects can you know, give way at any moment. Luckily they didn't, and we didn't see the death of Dominic Mysterio. Thank God. You know, because we'd all missed him. And yeah, it was like a really cool spot where they had Rhea kind of take out Dom without it being like seen as an issue, if you will. And then yeah, we saw the return of Raquel Rodriguez, where a lot of people, and you know, it's kind of a lot of people been talking about this one, how it's like the worst return of all time, blah blah blah. I enjoyed it. I thought it worked really well. And the case of the botch / disqualification or whatever, it's a case of like, or at least the way I saw it was, adrenaline is a hell of a drug, and you've got to see it as, if Raquel hasn't been in the ring since, February at Elimination Chamber, she's probably full of adrenaline going back out there again and returning, having this big moment, that she probably didn't even hear the bell ring for this disqualification. I know it's like, it seems on our side very hard to miss, but you know, wrestlers talk about all the time how they sometimes can't even hear the crowd because, you know, they're so zoomed in on what they're doing. So like, it wouldn't shock me if she just didn't hear the bell, and she went on with the plan that was supposed to happen, and then she kind of looks like a fool accidentally almost. But for me, I enjoyed it. I think it worked really well. Very glad that Raquel Rodriguez is back and with the Judgment Day. Raquel's someone I've been asking for months and months and months to turn heel and kind of go back to the muscle behind someone like she was doing in NXT with Dakota Kai. That seems to be the case now with Liv Morgan, and yeah, I can't wait to see what she has planned coming for the upcoming times and all this kind of stuff. And also, you'll remember that being the muscle, the big mammy cool gimmick, that's what got her over in NXT originally. So it makes sense that, you know, they can return back to that gimmick, and hopefully she gets over again, and then they have another main eventer who like can beat the shit out of any woman on the roster on their hands. And yeah, it's just, for me, there's a lot of positives here with having Raquel back. And yeah, I think the match itself was really good. The wrestling was very good. I said to my brother while we were watching the pay-per-view that I thought that Balor and Priest would be the more wrestling match on the card, and it turns out it wasn't. It was actually Liv and Rhea, which I thought was really cool. And yeah, so positives all around for me for this match. You know, overall the women in both matches went out there and killed it, and yeah, they just added to what was a very, very good pay-per-view in my opinion. And finally, in the main event, we had Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes defeat Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. And yeah, no, this was very clear why this match went on last. This match did not go on last for the match itself. It went on last for the moment, which we'll talk about in the not too distant future. But yeah, any other day, Punk and McIntyre goes on last. But the match itself was good. it was a very Roman style match in my opinion. It had that very slow pace to it throughout. It only really picked up when Jacob and Cody came in and kind of got in there together. The rest of it was very slow, methodical, and it worked to a point. Like I kind of found myself at times getting kind of disinterested in it. But again, it's kind of how Roman wrestles, and it's how they're trying to get Solo to wrestle, which I don't think works as well. If you remember down in NXT, he was a lot more fast-paced. Very happy to see Jimmy Uso come back. He's someone I've been waiting to come back for months now. Almost every SmackDown I expected him to return, and he didn't. But yeah, he got a big pop, and yeah, just all positives around for me for Jimmy coming back. Solo getting the pin here is... Someone had to take the pin. It didn't shock me that it was Solo after the few world title matches he's lost. It's just a case of I'm not sure how we take the bloodline, the newer bloodline seriously now, because if their leader is taking loads of losses and losing has consequences, of course, then he should essentially just be kicked out of the group. Like, the real leader of that group is Jacob Fatu, and even then he's taken a couple of losses now. And yeah, I'm just not sure where we go with this 2.0 bloodline without kind of seeing the guy that returned at the end factor himself into that and kind of pick them back up again. But yeah, Solo for me, as far as kind of being a leader, is kind of done now for me. I can't take him seriously just because of, you know, multiple losses, all that kind of stuff. It's why Judgment Day is so smart, because they don't have leaders, therefore, you know, they can't really look weak all the time. It's very clever. Yeah, but then we got the return of The Rock, or Dwayne. More likely Dwayne, you know, because Dwayne wasn't returning without going on last. So he stole another main event from CM Punk, which annoys the hell out of me. I hate Dwayne so much. However, if he can come back and be the defibrillator in this storyline that brings it back to life again, or at least gets the interest back involved again, then I'll be very happy with that. I'm not going to like The Rock. I'm never going to like The Rock. I think he's a bastard. I don't care if he thinks we all love him. We don't. But yeah, I feel like if he's going to insert some life into this feud, and we're going to get to Survivor Series, where we get Bloodline versus Bloodline, or Bloodline versus Bloodline and others, then that's kind of what I want to see. It's the match that we've been building up for since WrestleMania. And I don't know, I feel like the teams at this point it'll be 4-on-4, and it'll be Solo, the Guerrillas of Destiny, and Jacob versus Roman, the Usos, and Cody or Sammy. Like, that's what my assumption as far as teams of Survivor Series go. Obviously, it all depends on if Sami Zayn wins or loses the world title tonight, whether he'll be busy come Survivor Series. But yeah, so the match itself was fine. It wasn't. To be fair, I'd probably argue the tag match was one of the worst matches on the card. But like, not in a case of, oh, it was really down here. It was a case of, it was still like up here. It's just that everything else on the card was very good as well. So it's kind of like, it's the worst, but in a good way, if that makes sense. But yeah, it all, as I said like earlier, I think it was very clear that this match only went on last for the return of The Rock, and that's a bit of a shame. I felt like we could have opened with that, and it wouldn't have taken away from the show at any point if everything had stayed as it was. But I don't know. We shall see. And yeah, I'm curious to see what The Rock actually does, whether he's on the weekly shows or not, and kind of how we're going to get to Survivor Series. So those are my thoughts and opinions on Bad Blood. I thought that this was a very, very strong pay-per-view. I would say that the only pay-per-view that really topped it was WrestleMania, or more likely night 2 of WrestleMania. But yeah, I thought this was one of the better pay-per-views we've had. I thought that the wrestling on it was really solid and just very good from match to match to match. Obviously some very unexpectedly good matches, being Bayley and Nia Jax. We also got the absolute bloodfest that was Punk and McIntyre, which, as someone who prefers the more violent sides of wrestling, it was right up my alley and I absolutely loved it. But yeah, do put in the comments down below what your favourite match was, what you enjoyed about the show, what do you think of the Crown Jewel Championship, and kind of where you think that's going to go, and where we're going to be come Survivor Series. Are we going to get Bloodline versus Bloodline? Are we going to get Roman and Friends versus Bloodline? I don't know yet. I'm hoping we get Bloodline versus Bloodline. But yeah, do discuss it in the comments. I tend to reply to every comment anyway, so you know, we can have a good chat about it. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please leave it a like. Do subscribe to the channel. I am thinking of kind of going back onto Patreon a bit and doing like reactions to episodes of either Raw, SmackDown, NXT, all that kind of stuff. And kind of, it'll be like, definitely it'll be free, like don't worry about paying for it and stuff. And yeah, I'm looking forward to get into that, kind of doing more content, like not on YouTube. And yeah, I think that'll be really cool. But yeah, and I also do articles on the Wrestling For You website, where I kind of go through what happened on each of the weekly shows, or well, more specifically Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite and Collision. So do go check that out. I'll leave a link down in the description. And there's also a link on the channel itself, it's underneath the title. But yeah, if you enjoy this kind of stuff, and if you enjoy wrestling, you'll probably want to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. And thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you later.